Welcome back to my channel. Unless you're new here, welcome. Today we're going to tell the birth story of our baby girl. We didn't film a lot of footage, although the nurse who was helping us would like randomly steal Brian or my phone and like take photos for us, which was really cool. So we want to kind of start from the very beginning. I was not going into labor, and so the midwives at 41 I had to go have a non-stress test.
41 weeks.
Yeah. I clearly just got out of the shower and just kind of like dealing with some tough potential realities, like trying to come to terms with some potential realities of the day. So Monday we had a non-stress test, which tests the baby's heart rate, and what they're looking for is they're looking for two big spikes in their heart rate, which is really normal. They're also looking for it to have like a really good movement, because although we may have kind of like a baseline of a heart rate, we're always moving and it should be changing. And so she had good changes in her heartbeat, but they only saw one spike in her heart rate while I was in that test. Also, I was having contractions the whole time apparently. I wasn't feeling them, they were really mild, but they noticed that she was having declines in her heart rate after a contraction, which if she has them during a contraction, that's totally normal. But if she's having it after, that's not a good sign. And so they wanted me to go get an ultrasound, which I had scheduled for today. Today's Thursday. But get a rushed one and make sure that everything was fine in there, that my placenta was healthy, that she had enough fluid around her, like my amniotic sac had enough fluid in it. And yeah, they test her movement and I think a few other things. And while she was trying to schedule it, she couldn't get into the hospital, she couldn't get into their clinic, so she ended up having to send me to labor and delivery, where basically I had to sit on the bed and wait for somebody to be available. And pretty much what she said is if anything looked off, they would need to induce me, which is a really scary thought. You know, my dream is to have a baby here. The thought of not having her here is really sad. Not being able to have her here is really sad. The thought of not being able to have her with the midwives is really sad, but it's a lot of fear if there's an issue with her. Like, that's even scarier. So I was hooked up to another non-stress test while I was waiting for the tech to do my ultrasound, and they saw that she had 3 spikes in her heart rate while I was connected, which is really good. She also had like a totally normal flow with her heart rate, and I wasn't having any contractions, so they didn't see any dips, so it looked super normal. And she scored an 8 out of 8 on the ultrasound, which is super awesome. But I have a second one scheduled for today, which I had already previously had scheduled, but because of the concern that happened with that first non-stress test, they wanted me to keep this one in case, you know, they just want to like check and make sure that everything's fine. So we have that today, and it's sort of nerve-wracking because the midwife said like to go ahead and plan to bring our birth bag with us in case for any reason they say, yeah, you need to be induced. It'd be smart to have it with us. Not that they will, just that they could. So that's our plan. I also only have until Monday to have her normally, or else they have to transfer me to the hospital. If I'm in labor before the morning of Monday, I can have her with the midwives. But if I'm not, I have to go to the hospital. So a lot is weighing on my mind. On the plus side, she's moving around a whole bunch still, so that's a really good sign. Yeah, just like, oh.
So we went to our second non-stress test and everything still looked great. We still scored an 8 out of 8 and we left like super pumped. Brian kept saying she's already passed acing tests. And then we went to our midwife appointment after that, and she sent us home with like very specific instructions for that night and then for the following morning. So that night we were supposed to go home, go get something spicy from our favorite restaurant. It needed to be super spicy. And
Thai food, right?
Yeah. Basically what we were supposed to do was we were supposed to go for a walk to the restaurant, get the food, walk back, but it was freezing cold outside.
Yeah.
So,
this was end of November.
Yeah. So we went, rather than walking there, we drove there, got our Thai food, came back home. I walked our stairs a whole bunch of times, and I think it was like for half an hour. And I'm talking like I'm like on a mission to get this baby out. Not really because I was feeling over it or anything like that, but at this point it was like either you need to get the baby out or you have to go to the hospital, and I really didn't want to go to the hospital. So then the next thing on the list to do was to have sex and go to sleep. So done and done. Mm-hmm. And then nothing happened overnight. And we had to go ahead and start with the whole like castor oil treatment.
Operation Bring the Baby has officially begun. I never thought that I would be in the position to need to try this hard to get my baby to come. It was just like not my vision. But here we are now. I am 41 and you know how many days, Bray?
5, 41 and 4.
41 and 4, 41 and 5, something like that. And that is not great. Also considering some of the results that I got at one of my tests during the non-stress test. So it just makes my midwives like a little bit concerned, a little bit more like wanting to make this happen. So I have like a prescribed set of things that I'm doing for a home induction. And that started off at, early this morning. Started at 8:45 this morning. So I had a big breakfast. I took castor oil, and now I'm taking the herbs and supplements that they gave me at 15-minute increments. The castor oil didn't kick in until like 11 or 12. I really thought that it wasn't going to do anything. And then it did. So I'm having some like really soft, kind of like almost cramp like feelings, like my stomach is tensing up. And because the castor oil didn't kick in until so late, we didn't feel like it was a great idea for me to go ahead and do it again. So rather than doing it again, I'm just going to let it do its job and continue taking the herbs again in another 15-minute increments. The herbs are really supposed to help encourage and make contractions more powerful. So we'll see how that goes. While I am feeling the feels, I am making some granola that I have been loving throughout pregnancy.
I think my battery died and I just completely stopped filming. So yeah, we did
a little more focused on
making things
happen than filming it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was quite the day, and basically
she did not have the reaction that you're supposed to have from any of it. It was pretty mild. She had a couple little contractions, so then you just like kept walking stairs and trying to move around and make things happen, but it really didn't.
I did the mile circuit like who even knows how many times.
Yeah.
I mean, it was...
Didn't the mile circuit throw you out one time?
Yeah.
You were kind of like
I was
feeling contractions, and you did the mile circuit, and then it just stopped.
Yeah, we thought that we were in labor a couple of days before my non-stress test, and then it went away. The second non-stress test, I think.
Yeah.
So, the day after taking the castor oil, I was at 42 weeks at that point, and so we needed to schedule going to the hospital. And it was supposed to be first thing in the morning, but when they called, they found out that the hospital was like really full of patients at the time.
About really full, but I think they said that they could give us more
attention
one-on-one attention if we came a little later. Yeah.
So it went from being like, rather than coming in right away, we'd come in at like 11, and then they got a hold of us and asked if instead of coming in at 11, we could come in at 2. So we ended up going there at 2. They were actually in the middle of a delivery when we got there. Mm-hmm. So the nurse like kept coming in and being like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. They're still in the middle of a delivery," and blah, 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 blah. So we were there for 2 hours before anything happened.
Well, they got you hooked up to the fetal monitor and...
For the first time, yeah.
Well, no, they did that right when we got there. Like, they got you all hooked up to the machines and everything, and...
Yeah, so I did have to have a fetal monitor on every 3 hours. Or was it every 3?
I think that's pretty standard, whether you're late or not.
I thought that it's just if you're really far along.
No, I think anytime they have you in a hospital for a delivery, they want to keep an eye on how the baby's doing. I mean, at least you didn't have to have it on 24/7.
Yeah, so that would have really sucked.
Yeah.
But they finally came in. We told them like all the things that we wanted. I know that I told them that for sure I didn't want anybody talking about medication, like pain reliever.
They even had like a whiteboard.
Yeah.
That you like
wrote it on the board.
They wrote down all your preferences.
Yeah.
And they didn't
really. The nurse in the beginning, she was super awesome in the fact that she found out that I had a really huge hatred of needles and like a super big anxiety about that. So she picked 2 places on my arm where she put numbing gel, and I didn't even know that was something that they could do. That's so awesome that she offered it. Like, I'm really grateful that she tried to make me feel thought of in that way. And she was really great at making conversation every time that she came in. she was not great about not bringing up medication. Like she just couldn't stop.
Yeah, I think she was just so used to.
Yeah.
It's just part of her life. Just used to talking about medication. Even though she's the one that wrote it on the board not to talk about medication, she was the one that talked about it the most.
Yeah. So that was a bummer. But I don't feel like it encouraged me to ask for anything. It was just sort of frustrating.
Yeah, you weren't pushed.
Yeah.
It was just like they just kept bringing it up.
Yeah. So the first doctor that came in, I was super excited about. Her name was, well, I'm not going to use names, but I was really excited about having her because she was the one who did my first non-stress test, and she was like so kind, so kind. She was very touchy-feely, like almost too much touchy-feely. Like she just like, you know what I mean? She just kept hitting me.
I didn't notice
that. Yeah, that's what I noticed about her when she did the non-stress test.
Oh, okay.
Well, not when she came in, when I was in labor. But so she was really great for the non-stress test, and she came in, she gave me a Foley bulb, which is like a catheter, but in your cervix. Yeah. And they had a new one that they were using that not all of the doctors were super used to using. So it was like a balloon that they fill up inside of your cervix, and then it has a little tube in between, and then another one that's outside of your cervix that's filled up a little bit less. It just kind of, how did I describe it in the moment? I was like, it obviously feels like a weight inside of you, but do you remember how I described it?
No, it was mostly just pressure, right? Because basically they position it between the cervix and the baby's head. So when they fill it up with saline, it basically like pushes, it fills that space, and it's, it mimics like the baby's head pushing harder down on your cervix.
Mm-hmm. And the point of that is to open up your cervix to 5 centimeters. That's the point that they're hoping for it to hit. So, they put that in. I was having some contractions. They were really mild. They were like, I would describe them as like period-like cramping when it was happening. And I was mostly just like bending over onto Brian. I was walking around at this whole point, unless they hooked me up to the fetal monitor, which I had to sit there for like 45 minutes and have that on. Was it that long?
15.
Was it 15?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sometimes it felt like
it took like 5 minutes to hook it back up each time.
So it's supposed to like come out by itself. The next doctor came on shift, and my midwife was still there when he came on shift. It was like almost right after having the Foley bulb put in. And my midwife was like super excited that we're getting him because he's been doing it for a really long time, and he's really slow to be pushy about like trying different things.
He has a lot of experience, so he doesn't buckle under pressure or whatever. He makes good decisions.
Yeah,
I guess you'd put it that way.
I wouldn't say that I had the most excellent experience with him. He did come in, and we talked about what was on the whiteboard and what I wanted and didn't want. And he made a comment when this discussion had kind of ended. He left a pause, and then he said, there's no reward for suffering. My mom happened to have brought us dinner and be there for that, and I swear I could see her mouth open under her mask. Like, yeah, we were both really surprised by that. So we asked her to stay because we know that she's
a good advocate.
She's a really good advocate for people that need it, especially in the medical field. So yeah, we asked if she could stay. She stayed. It was never brought up from that point on. And then the first nurse that was with us happened to be there when that doctor was in there. And she, I think, overheard us talking about how frustrated we were with the fact that she wouldn't stop bringing up medication. So she told the doctor when he was in there after he said that, she's like, they don't want you to talk about medication. So I think she had kind of got the point, like, we really didn't want that. So we were checked after having that in with him for how long? Like 3 hours?
It was like 3 a.m.
Was it 3 a.m. the first time he checked it? Or the second time?
He only checked it once.
No, he checked it twice. Because remember, before he checked it the first time, he was like, you know, if it's not coming out, we may have to talk about penicillin. Or, no, what's that? What's that one that they give you to make you... It starts with P.
Yeah.
I swear, what is it?
Pitocin.
Pitocin. Yeah. So he checked it, it wouldn't come out, and he's like, I think we should wait a little bit longer. And then at the end of his shift, he came to check it again.
And it came out.
Yeah. Again, this was his first time using this type of Foley bulb, so he wasn't really aware.
Pretty sure it was like 3 a.m. when he checked it the first time, and then it was like 7 a.m. when it came out.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. Maybe.
I'm pretty sure that, because that's right around when things started getting rolling, was like 7, 8 a.m.
Well, that was after. He came and checked it again at some point, and he went to pull it out, and he was only used to the Foley bulbs that they used to use, which has one balloon in it, not two. So he very gently pulled out the first one and then yanked the rest of the way out, and there was a whole second one in there. So that was pretty uncomfortable for a while afterwards. And I'll say it was almost more strange having the Foley bulb out than in, if that makes sense. Like, you're so used to having all that pressure, and then all of a sudden there's not that pressure. It felt very weird doing everything after that point. So he checked me, and he said that I was at 8 centimeters, and he was like super shocked.
I thought it was 7. Pretty sure it was 7.
I was 8 to him, and then the next doctor came in, and she said that I was 7.
Oh, okay.
So when we got switched over, yeah, she said that I was at 7, not at 8. So things were just kind of like slowly progressing still at that point. I started having like a little bit of blood coming out. Or like, I think it was my mucus plug was coming out. And I think things weren't quite moving fast enough for them. So they asked if they could break my water. And both my mom and my sister's water was like super tough to break. So I assumed mine would be like really hard to break too. But yeah, it was like 2 seconds. In and out, done, wet, everywhere. I was like, you're done already? And she's like, yeah. Like, what's the big deal? So anyways, things definitely progressed after that happened fairly rapidly. I started feeling some like pushing feelings. So we got the stool that you can like sit on, like a squat. And Brandon and my mom were like walking me through how to breathe through them, and like where you breathe into, you know, you're not pushing, you're like fighting your body to push. So you have to like breathe into your body in a certain way. Yeah, that was interesting.
It's the Bradley method.
Yeah, we used the Bradley method for like everything that we did, which was super helpful. So at some point of me like sitting on the stool, my mom is like, you're ready to push. And I was like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, I'm going to go get the doctor right now. So she goes and gets the nurse, and the nurse went and got the doctor, and the doctor was standing over me, and she's like, you're at 7 centimeters and you're not ready to push. And if you do anything, if you do push, you're going to swell. You're going to make yourself swell. And Brian's like, are you even going to check her? Because she hadn't even checked me.
Yeah, it had been 2.5 hours, something like that, since you were last checked. So I just assumed that she was gonna
come in and check,
before making any advice or anything like that. But she just started talking about not being ready, which was strange.
I felt pretty defeated at that point. It's really difficult to go from. It's really difficult to go from the mindset of like, oh, it's time to, oh, it's not time anymore. And I have no idea how long I need to do this for anymore. Because she did check me and she did say that I was still at 7 centimeters and that I couldn't push and that I needed to not push because I would swell. So I ended up climbing back on the bed and laying in the Bradley method side laying position, trying to breathe through these feelings of needing to push, because they're pretty extreme, and they eventually just started like completely taking over my body. So I would breathe until the point that it would just like completely take over.
Yeah. Up to this point, from my perspective, you were having a pretty easy labor. Like, you know, you were having some contractions overnight, and then your contractions got a little bit stronger after they broke your water. But it really wasn't until you laid down on your side that I could tell, like, oh, okay, like, she's super in labor now, because like it was uncontrollable emotions and waves of pain and stuff going through your face. So yeah, I could definitely.
We don't use the word pain. We use the word discomfort.
Okay, well, whatever. You were in pain. But yeah, it's you know, that was where I could really tell, like, you know, they in the Bradley method they have these things called like signposts. Mm-hmm. That was definitely a signpost right there where things changed pretty dramatically.
Yeah. I would say that probably the second one was like after my water broke and they were...
Yeah.
So when that point changed, they tried to do a couple different like things to help me through them, which pretty much everything was just like super uncomfortable, and I started getting really, really hot. So I asked Brian to grab a clip out of the bag for me, the hospital bag. And I meant like my claw clip, and I think you pulled out like a little hair clip, and I'm like, no, not this. I thought that I was being so mean and I felt so bad, but I was like dying, and I'm like, I just need this and I need it right now. I don't have patience.
I survived. I got over it.
Yeah. Yeah. So apparently my nurse, who the last nurse that we had was like super great. She's the one who like kept taking photos and being like, you guys are doing so good. She's like, you have such a good team, you know, like she was super supportive of the whole situation. Mm-hmm. And she apparently went on lunch, and another nurse came in, and she was checking for my, for the fetal heartbeat. Because she said that for like the last 3 minutes, it wasn't working. And at that point in my labor, I had to have it on me 24/7. So like, I think after they broke my water, they said that I had to have it on me continuously. Sometime after, because remember I was on that squat thing with it on me. That squat chair.
Yeah, they tried switching to that wireless one. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't working very well.
Yeah.
So then they switched back to the wired one. But yeah, anyway, you were on your side and they couldn't get it adjusted right.
Yeah, and every time she'd move it, it was so uncomfortable. Like, it made my contractions so much worse every single time. And then all of a sudden I felt this like big pound, and I like grabbed myself And my mom, who's sitting on the couch across the room, is like, Taylor, did something change? Did something change? And she's like asking me all these questions and if I'm feeling all these things. And I couldn't even answer her the first time that she asked me. I think I was just like in so much shock and like not sure exactly what was happening. I knew something had changed, but I'm not exactly sure what to say. So she asked me again, and I just like shook my head yes, that I had felt some changes. And the nurse was like, oh, did something change? So she like, she walks over very slowly, goes and grabs a glove, comes and checks me, and then she's like, there's a head, and starts like frantically calling people to come to the room. Apparently the doctor's office was really far away, so they refused to put the end of the bed on until she got there.
Take it off.
Oh, to take it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I couldn't give birth basically until she got there. My mom was holding my head up. What were you feeling? Or what did you
I was
see
just trying to stay out of the way. Because there was already a lot of energy going on, and I was just like, I'm gonna hang out and see if anybody needs me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell the end?
No, you're doing good.
Okay. So my mom, like, I remember her asking me if I knew why she was holding my head up, and I was like, yeah, so that I don't bear down. Mm-hmm. At some point, apparently, she ran out and told the nurse that she was going to have to deliver the baby. I don't even remember my mom leaving the room. I have no recollection of this.
I don't either.
And the nurse was like, not on my watch. Like, she was absolutely not going to deliver my baby. So I see everybody like frantically putting on all their gear to deliver her. And then I remember that the doctor that was just like standing off to the side, like looking at us. And I had already like, my body already took control one time throughout this whole process, and I bared down. So my mom like shouts at her. She's like, are you ready? Because we've been waiting for you. And
the doctor's just standing there like, yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah. It's so weird. It was so weird.
It was a weird energy.
So, and I'm not really sure what brought on that whole thing. Like, I really don't understand what happened. So I started pushing and wasn't really sure how to do that whole thing. So they had to kind of like walk me through how to do the end pushing, because I had been doing fine with all the breathing before that, but it's a totally different kind of breathing that you have to do when you're actually pushing.
Yeah, you were grunting.
Yeah.
And
screaming.
And scream. Well, you weren't, I wouldn't say screaming. I mean, yeah, you were like...
It was loud.
You were vocal, yeah. But, yeah, you were just like letting too much of your energy out of your mouth rather than closing your mouth and just, you know, bearing down. So I think, you know, that's what they were trying to get you to do, is almost like hold your breath.
Yeah.
And push.
It's very weird. It was very different for me than everything else. It was hard to kind of grasp. Like, it took me a couple times after being told what to do to kind of grasp it.
Yeah. But it went so fast.
Yeah.
You pushed for 7 minutes.
Yeah. Which
was...
and in that 7 minutes, I turned to Brian and I was like, at the beginning of that 7 minutes, turned to Brian and was like, we're naming her Savannah.
Yeah.
By the way, her name is Savannah Grace.
It's hard
Are
to
you
get
scared?
No, it's the blanket and the this are like the same textile. So I was having trouble like grabbing. Yeah, I was like peeling this up.
Oh, yeah, not good.
You smell pretty good. Sleepy little girl. Yeah, it'd been a lot of work to try and come up with a name that we could agree on, and it took me a little while to get sold on Savannah, but once I was sold on it, it was definitely my favorite name. Like, Taylor kept looking at other new names and trying to get me interested in other names that she was finding. I was like, nope, I still like Savannah the best. Yeah. So, yeah, it was cool. That's what she ended up being named. Well, when you think about, like, oh, you only had to push for 7 minutes, I think had they checked you a little bit earlier before you had like that that drop feeling, you probably would have been pushing for 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
To try to kind of get the head started. But I think because you got so far along while you were just laying there on your side, that's why the pushing went so quickly. Because really all you had to do was like mostly just pass the rest of her head and the shoulders, and she was out. Like they weren't waiting for her head to emerge or anything like that. Yeah.
They also had me touch her head at some point during the pushing, and it didn't feel like anything. That's why I moved my hand so fast away from it, because I was like, it didn't really feel like anything. It felt like a flat, bald surface. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. It was definitely an adrenaline rush for me. Like, I was...
Yeah, tell them about how you felt.
Yeah, I mean, once like they got her strapped up in the stirrups, and like, you know, the doctor had their like spray suit on. It did. It looked like they were. It
really was.
It looked like they were going to go in and paint a car.
Yeah,
like it was like
full
shield, face shield, and all kinds of stuff, and hanging plastic sheets and everything on either side of you.
I don't remember that.
Plastic sheeting on the floor.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was plastic sheeting everywhere. But
they were all like frantically going too.
I was like, ooh, like it's getting real now. Like we're gonna have a kid in, you know, T-5 minutes, and my heart was pumping, and I was holding on to the bed like.
Are you gonna tell them?
Yeah, I felt lightheaded a little bit. I felt like, okay, I need to hold on to something for a second. And it didn't have anything to do with like the blood or any of that kind of stuff. Because I have no problem with blood and stuff. It was just like the excitement and everything. It was just like...
And somehow nobody else noticed that you were about to faint.
No. I just had to gain my composure a little bit and focus on being there for you, and everything went well. Yeah, so she was born at 1:01 and 1:01 p.m. and came out perfect. Like they put her right on Taylor's chest, and we had wanted the umbilical cord to not be clamped or cut until everything was finished pulsing. So normally, like they'll, like right when the baby comes out, they'll clamp the umbilical cord, and they'll stop the blood flow from the placenta to the baby. But from our conversations and reading the Bradley book, there's quite a bit of blood, like I think close to a half a pint or something like that of blood that gets transferred from the placenta into the baby in those last 20 or 30 seconds, which is, can be pretty significant. And, anytime, you're low on blood, you're kind of, already, I don't know what's the word, you're
prone.
Yeah, you're not at full capacity, right? So yeah, we made sure that we didn't clamp or cut the cord until all that blood flow had finished.
Yeah, unfortunately, they were a little. I don't know if this happened because they were aggressive or not, but they were a little bit aggressive with pulling out my placenta. It can naturally come out within an hour. And I know that the midwives pull it out also, but they're pretty gentle with it. From what my mom said, they were pretty aggressive, and my placenta came out in a piece that was like this big. So I don't think that she got the same blood flow that she would have gotten had it been all together, because it stopped really quickly.
They didn't pull until I cut the cord.
But they said that it stopped. No, I think she did.
No,
because I'm pretty sure it was out and.
No, she handed her to you, and let you kind of just, meet her and hold her, and then we just kind of waited. I think it was 30 seconds, maybe a minute, for the umbilical cord to stop pulsing, and then they clamped it and I cut it. So then once everything was detached from the baby, then they could focus on the placenta, and that's when they took the placenta out.
It only came out like, I don't know,
it was pretty small.
That big. She's like, that can't be all of it.
Yeah.
The doctor was like, that can't be all of it. So she's like, I'm going to have to go in. So pay attention to your baby. And she did a hand scoop in, and it just came out completely shredded. So it was a good thing that I had her when I had her.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because all of her ultrasound stuff came back perfect. And one of the things that they are checking is the health of the placenta, because that's what feeds your baby.
Yeah, it could have been a lot of things. It could have been like, because the placenta was on the front of your uterus, so it could have been positioning that made it come out weird. It could have been, I don't know enough about babies, but it could have been like one of her limbs could have damaged it on the way out, or who knows what could have caused the placenta to come out and to come apart. But yeah, it did. But she was awesome and healthy, and
she ate for an hour.
Yeah.
After giving birth to her.
Yeah.
She's a good little eater.
She eats like a champ.
Yeah, she really does. And now we have a beautiful little baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was 6 pounds 3 ounces, which the midwife said, it's a good thing that she was 2 weeks late, because if she had been born full term and not late term, she probably would have had to go to NICU for being underweight.
So everybody's been like, yeah, she knew that she needed to stay put.
Yeah, she had a little bit more cooking to do in that oven.
Yeah. And she was underweight for being a 42 week in a day old baby.
Yeah.
So they made us stay for 24 hours. Plus they wanted to check on me for that time.
Yeah.
So they were coming in every 3 hours and every 4 hours. So we did not get any sleep.
Yeah, they had to prick her heel every 3 hours and check her glucose levels.
Yeah.
Which they were perfect every time. And then they did a final prick that they do for some kind of blood screening.
Yeah.
Even
the midwives do it.
Yeah, they have this card that has like 4 or 5 circles on it that they have to soak in blood and then test it out. Yeah.
We never got the results for that. I still keep looking and I don't see it anywhere.
It's one of those things where they're like, if we don't really give you the results unless there's something
wrong,
negative, yeah, or something that needs attention. So, yeah. So we did a thing.
Yeah.
We had a baby. Well, we had a baby. I stood there.
But you have a baby now.
I have a baby now. Yeah. And she's with grandma right now. That's the only reason that we have this
time to tell you guys.
Time to tell you this story, because this wouldn't have happened otherwise. We would have been like changing diapers and rocking her to sleep and entertaining her, and yeah, she's already very, very active.
Yeah.
Doing all kinds of head lifts and tummy time and kind of babbling, a little bit of babbling, like getting started with the whole talking, babbling thing. And she's only 9 weeks old, so she's like, I don't know, every parent's like, my kid's like, my kid can do this, my kid can do that. But yeah, no, she seems to be slightly ahead of the curve.
I think every parent's like super proud of their baby. Like, they just fill you with so much joy, and you're just like, you're so proud of literally everything that they do.
Yeah.
Like tiny thing. Like, okay, the other day I put my finger out like this, and she grabbed my finger like right away, and Brian was like, "Oh, did you see that?"
Yeah, it was just like.
I kind of think it was a coincidence, but Brian's like so proud.
It was perfect aim. Like it wasn't like, it wasn't like her wrist hit your hand or her palm. It was,
Yeah.
I would think like if she didn't do it on purpose, that she would have like hit your finger and then figured out that she hit your finger and then closed her hand. But no, she was just like clink.
Yeah.
She just like grasped right on.
Yeah.
But whatever.
It's okay. You're allowed to love her. Yeah, it's just like so. It's a totally different kind of love. Like it's just so undescribable. Yeah. The love that you feel for your baby.
For dads, I think it's a little bit different. The bonding is a little bit different. At least for me, it was. There's obviously that immediate love. But like actually, feeling a strong connection with her took 3 or 4 weeks.
Until you saw her smile.
Yeah, it was really until she was able to react back to me. Mm-hmm. Because for those first weeks, they're just kind of like, they're just like a bump on a log. They lay there and they scream.
Okay, but
they stare at you.
Her cry in the beginning was just so cute.
It was pretty cute. Yeah.
It was so tiny.
Yeah, but they just, you know what I mean. They just kind of like stare at you, and they're soaking things in, but they can't really do anything. And you're sleep deprived, and you're changing diapers, and they're these black tar nasty ass diapers to begin with, and. Yeah, so you're just, you're kind of just like going through the motions a little bit for the first 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah. But then she started like smiling, and like when you do peekaboos, she kind of like does a little giggle maybe every now and then. And then it's like, okay. And then you start developing this
relationship.
Yeah, and this like unspoken dialogue with them, you know, which is really cool. So I really enjoy spending time with our niece, and she's always been a ton of fun, especially when she started talking and like crawling around and stuff like that. So I'm really excited for her to hit a few of those milestones, and we can play together, and we can talk together, and we can read books together. And
I think you got connected with Ellie way before she started talking. Like, you would always be obsessed with her next thing that she was doing.
She did a few really funny things. Like, she was obsessed with soda cans, or in our case, it was sparkling water cans, like bubbly water, and especially the red cans. And she would just stare at them, and then if she got one close to her, she would like start chewing.
Yeah, she wanted to put it in her mouth.
Yeah, she wanted to put it in her mouth. Partly, I think, you know, because it was cold.
Yeah.
And she was starting to teeth, maybe. But yeah, she just like kind of try and like nibble on the side of the can, which was pretty adorable.
It was.
So yeah, I got a kick out of that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to those moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the cool new stuff.
I don't know. I love every little moment. Like I want it to slow down. You know, I want her to get big and strong and learn, but I know that these moments are gonna be gone so fast, and I just don't want them to be gone as fast as I know they will be. But yeah.
I'm kind of cool with the pace that it goes.
Anyways, that is the birth story of Savannah. Thank you guys for watching. If you've watched this far, we really appreciate it. It really helps my channel. Hope you guys like this video. If you did, please hit the like button down below and subscribe if you want to see more from us. We'll see you next time. Bye.
You're going to have to brighten that up so much. It got so dark in here.